We had one company who came to us and they were launching a direct to consumer campaign. And they were like, well, we need 27 websites in the next 4 weeks. Can you do this? And we're like, again, those moments, like, and we just said yes. And then behind the scenes, we're like, holy crap, 27 websites in 4 weeks. What do we do? Right. And then but what I found is that you can always find people to help you fill the capacity. If you have the sale made.
Welcome to Adapt or Die Transformative Leadership Conversation. This is the show where I talk with top executives and we impact those moments that force them to pivot or to perish. My name is Andreas Pedersen. I'm a former tech CEO that turned executive coach, and I'm the founder of Leaders Adapt. Welcome so much to the show, Theresa.
Oh, thank you so much, Andres. I'm so pleased to be here. It's a
Awesome.
great thing to do on a Friday, inspire other entrepreneurs.
It's better than a lot of other things I can do on Fridays, right? At least now we get to talk about leadership and strategy and all those crazy situations we've been in.
100%, 100%. I love your phrase, exploring those moments when business owners either have to pivot or perish. It's so powerful.
And we talked a little bit about this before, and my first question to you is that back in 2015, you were faced with this settlement, and as a result, you had to generate 80% more revenue under less than 100 days, which is a lot of work. But walk me through that moment, because I think it gives the listeners the perfect introduction to who you are, what was going through your mind. Tell me more about that situation.
Yeah, well, thank you so much for asking. So, yeah, and looking back over my history, I mean, we were hitting our 30th year in business. My husband started the agency almost 15 years before I hitched my wagon to his star. And of course, as a typical woman, came in and changed everything. That's what we do.
Good.
Yes.
We need more women in power, so I'm all for it.
But I came by it honestly. I mean, he had been producing radio and TV ads, and of course, the internet wasn't a thing. And so that made sense. But then digital came on like a freight train. And when I came into the business, yeah, we had some personal challenges that were putting an extreme amount of external pressure on the business. And there was that settlement in 2015. I call those moments when you're backed into the corner, the must corner, right? You're backed into the must corner and you must rise to rally to the cause. And there's no choice, because to your point, you're either going to adapt in that moment or you're going to die. And we had that situation. We had an old partner in the business, and we had to pay that partner out, and we had to produce more cash every 6 months for the next 4 years than the business even produced in a year. And so we had to just get super scrappy. I mean, Damon Johns, he published a book called The Power of Broke, because it's in those moments when you're in that must corner and you have to be scrappy, and it's all hustle and grind in that moment. So you have to just look at, dig deeper than you ever have to say, how can I say yes to just about anything, everything that I can do to create mad amount of cash flow so that I can just get through this situation. And in our situation, we were going to be found in contempt of court unless we peeled out that cash. And we had a restraining order to the point where we could not devalue the business. So we couldn't file bankruptcy. We could not show up. We could not go reduce the value of the company in any way. And so that placed an extra layer of legal stress. And so that must corner was intense, right? Like, you just have to go, okay. When I came into the business, we had mostly project business. We were recreating the business pretty much month after month. And one of the first things I looked at was, well, we've got to have retainer business. We have to have recurring revenue. And so that was the number one question. How can I create at least 50% recurring revenue right away? What do I need to create? And the answer to that question was I had to look outside of video. I had to look outside of ad production. And so I really needed to become a full service agency overnight. I had to be able to say yes to social media, to websites, to traditional uh, print, to graphic design, to video, to ad production, to everything overnight, like in order to get those retainers. And so that's what we did. We said, yes, that's what we're going to do. And we had no earthly clue what we were doing, to be honest. Like we just had to figure it out.
Oh, crazy. So I can imagine this also puts a lot of strain on the relationship, especially when you're in business with your partner. Uh, Walk me through like how like what were the discussion? How could you separate sort of work from life in those moments? How
Yeah.
did you compartmentalize, and how did it impact you?
Yeah, that's a great question. You're going to force me to look back. So I came into the business with a slightly different perspective than my husband at the time, and he was very, very well encamped in the self-employed quadrant. So if you've read Rich Dad Poor Dad, there's the four cash flow quadrants: the E, the S, the B, the I. He was very comfortable being an S, right? He had bought himself basically a good paying job in the business. But I knew that because of my background in sales and marketing, I came from big business. I came from Fortune 500 sales and marketing background. And so I looked at the business through a completely different lens, through a big business lens, and said, well, S is great, but if we need to create recurring revenue, then we need to create a business system that also has the efforts of other people that we can lean into. And so we were doing managing the relationship from a little bit different perspectives. Because of that, he actually had the wisdom to go, you know what? I don't see that level that you see. I'm going to let you, if you think something is possible, we obviously have to do something. It's adapt or die. I'm going to let you take the reins, create what you think you need to create. So part of the relationship strain was alleviated because my husband had the wisdom to lean into a different perspective than his own. And that takes a big man to do that. To have a business for 15 years where you've been providing a livelihood for your family all those years, but to recognize that what got you here is not going to get you there.
Big.
And
It's
to
big for anyone.
instantly so hard to do. And I have to give Kelly, my husband, all the kudos in the world because he was the one that allowed the pivot, Andreas. He was the one that had enough strength and resiliency inside of him to say, no, come alongside of me. I trust you. Let's figure it out. And so if he hadn't pivoted, the business wouldn't have been allowed to pivot. So, business owners, we're the block
Mhm.
on the business. So the pivot starts with us, 100%.
Amazing. Tell me about how, like, now you're getting some more clients in, you're getting revenue flowing again. Um, what was the hurdles? Like, what changed? And not just what you did practically, but the mindset shift that you had to do. I mean, you had to produce 80% growth within 100 days. What did you have to
Yeah.
change in your mindset compared to where you used to be?
Yeah. So great question. We instantly had to go, who do we need? Who, not how. Not just how do we get this work done, but who do we need to get the work done? And in the S quadrant, as a self employed, you're used to just rolling up your sleeves and doing it yourself. Right.
Mhm.
So one of the big mindset shifts is who else do I need to help me get this done? And you have to be willing to pay for their time and you have to structure it right. So we had to grow the team very quickly. We went from 3 to 25 employees in like under 18 months. Like it was rapid fire growth. And we paid a lot of dumb tax for that because we didn't really know what we were doing.
Tell me, what's the definition of dumb tax? I love that expression, by the way.
And the definition of dumb tax, I've never been asked. It's the price that you pay for not knowing what you don't know.
Yeah. So many entrepreneurs forget to factor in that one.
Yeah, and that's why I just heard a quote the other day that rich people pay for time, poor people pay for stuff.
Mhm.
And, people who are leveraging other people's time, other people's talents know that they can cut that dumb tax if they link arms with people who do stuff better than they do,
I love that.
right? But I didn't know enough to even to be dangerous, Andreas. I was literally just common sensing my way to the goal. And I had so much external fire that we just said yes to everything. We said yes to everything. I mean, we got a random call it was like a Tuesday, and the international airport called us, and they're like, we need you to respond to this RFP. We see that you're positioned in town. And we're like, what is this? Never worked with an airport before, right? I'm, 3 weeks later, sitting in front of an airport board, and they're saying, "Well, how many airports have you worked with? How many?" Well, I said, "Well, exactly 0.
Yeah.
0 airport." I'll just tell you the truth. I said, "But this is what this is, we're very quick learners. We adapt very quickly. We're going to give you very personal attention. We're going to pay attention to all the details. But yeah, I'm going to tell you the truth. 0 airports. But I'm saying yes to you if you want to say yes to me."
I love the
And
hustle.
we got it,
Sometimes
right?
those are the best sales tactics, actually, just brutal honesty, because it's the devil you know versus the devil you don't know. And in that situation, you rather have the truth than have someone who will lie their way into the job.
Oh, 100%. So I think that we had to shift our mindset around, like, who do we need? And then we also had to recognize that we had to say yes to everything that we could at that point. If it was feasible or logistically even possible, we had to create the cash. There was no option. And so we knew we weren't going to do everything, you know, excellently. Like, some of this was going to be, we're going to do the very best we could. And then we had to just, that had to be good enough. We had one company who came to us, and they were launching a direct to consumer campaign. And they were like, "Well, we need 27 websites in the next 4 weeks. Can you do this?" And we're like, again, those moments, like, and we just said yes. And then behind the scenes, we're like, holy crap, 27 websites in 4 weeks. What do we do? Right. And then but what I found is that you can always find people to help you fill the capacity. If you have the sale made, if you lean into the yes, you can always find the resources to get it done. It's actually harder to pin down the opportunity than it is to find the people to help you fulfill it.
That was going to be my next question, because a lot of businesses, if they're faced with a similar situation, they don't have the pipeline or the funnel to be able to pull in that amount of growth in that short amount of time. It sounds like you absolutely had a very good funnel or connections, but what, or did you? And if you did not, how did you build it quickly?
We really didn't, Andreas. We had a website that had some SEO value. And so both of those opportunities found us just through our website. They just picked up the phone, and we just happened to be in the right place. So I wouldn't even say that we had a quality pipeline or a quality funnel. We just had a lot of grace. Maybe we had some supernatural protection looking out for us, and maybe, I don't know, maybe just our sheer determination and grit helped us attract opportunities like that. But, I wasn't afraid to pick up the phone. If there was a job I didn't know how to do, I just called a lot of people and I said, "How do I do this? Can you help me?" "Oh, you don't think you can help me? Well, are you sure you don't have 2 hours? Do you have 20 minutes to give me some insight?" Like, and I was not afraid to chase up any tree and ask any question.
I love it. The power of the network. That's yeah, and asking the right question. But okay, so you were in this firefighting mode and you pulled it off. And here is where I see a lot of entrepreneurs make the mistake. They stay in the firefighting mode. How did you shift from firefighting into that focused execution that followed just getting all these sales in?
Yeah, that's a really excellent question as well. So because I came into the business with that B perspective, that business perspective versus S quadrant. Even though, yes, we were in firefighting mode, I always had my vision on a business system that could run without me wearing all the hats,
Mhm.
right? And so the shift for us out of firefighting mode was recognizing that the key to sustainable success for us was for us to have a system that was really sustainable. And yes, over here in firefighting, we were just saying yes, figuring it out, finding the vendors, producing the deliverables, moving on. The shift was no, we need to do this in a more systematic, methodical way. What's a better way to do this work? Oh, well, what we really need to do is plan the work, work the plan.
Mhm.
And then we shifted into, okay, what does plan the work the plan look like? And we created a system called Momentum that we now guide our small business clients on. And it's much less fire drill. No, it's a proprietary roadmap that we guide people on step by step. And that came in that transition from firefighting mode to now how do we do it better? How do we do it more sustainably so that we're not burning everybody out on the team?
Yeah, and yourself. I mean, it's being an
Yeah.
entrepreneur, it's a marathon, not a sprint, right? But sometimes people just get stuck in sprints all the time and they wear out.
Yes. So we actually, in that transition, to your point, we scaled the team back down. We went back down to 8 or 9 people. We retooled the whole foundation, and revenue was pretty flat for about 3 years after we came through that fire drill situation. And we just really took the time to build the foundation strong and build the systems, and then we grew back up.
Love it.
So that was really the key. We had to sustain the flatline seasons, right? And be willing to just do the right thing.
Tell me about the mindset shift there because I how do I say? I do talk to several people. They had they really were in those adapt or die moments. They grew it and then it plateaued. And then when they plateaued, they couldn't really pivot into that moment either, and they couldn't understand how to recreate the growth. How were you able to recognize it? And for the listeners here, it's like, what would you recommend? What were the signals or the trigger points that the plateau is coming up and why it's okay? I mean, you were in it for 3 years. Tell
Yeah.
me or tell the listeners, how should they think about those moments?
I think that the clarity is king. You have to begin with the end in mind. So the thing that was always my North Star was I wanted a team managed company. I wanted a sustainable system. I wanted systems and roles and people within those systems because I was building a business, not just creating a job for myself. So in that plateau moment, the question always was, what is the best thing for the client? And what is the best thing for us to get to that goal of having this thing be able to stand up without our, us wearing all the hats. So I think that was the North Star, Andreas, because clarity really was king. I had the end already in mind. And so even if I wasn't in it day to day experiencing that, I knew what I was going to. Right? And so I could sustain my own energy for those 3 years of retooling the foundation because I knew it was gonna be so much better the next time we ascended to the next peak.
And now that you worked with all these other companies, what is the common mistake others do in that situation? What is it that they're overlooking, either in the crisis or in the plateau?
I think they don't recognize themselves and the mindset shifts. You're hitting on some really great questions about how are you thinking? How are you feeling in these moments? We as business owners, we're the bottleneck in the business. We're the ceiling on the business. So when you're in these seasons or in these transitional seasons, you have to work on yourself, and I had coaches in several points of the path. And then 3 years ago, when I really doubled down on that mindset to rebuild, to really triple the size of the team again, to your point about that first day energy, like, okay, now I'm reapproaching the mountaintop. I hired a coach. I hired a mentor to hold me accountable to that next level of vision. And I really invested in myself so that I could see where I needed to get out of my own way.
You should help me promote what I do. You just
Yeah.
pitched what I do. Great. No,
Oh, nice.
you can't always see. I help a lot of other business owners and founders, especially on leadership and mindset. And sometimes I'm surprised how people who makes tens of millions of dollars a month are completely blocking themselves from their mindset perspective. Um, I think it's fascinating. I would never have sustained my own growth in the company I founded and exited out of if it wasn't for coaches and mentors. And you're just blind in the moment. And I wish
Yeah.
more people realized that it's okay to ask for help.
Yeah, and sometimes don't you find that just having a safe space to talk about your bottlenecks or talk about your resistance points or talk about your vision even, like, sometimes stuff will come out of my mouth because I'm talking about it out loud with them, and I'll recognize, "Oh, wait a minute, that's actually a bogus story I'm telling." Like, I'm limiting myself because that's bullshit that just came out of my mouth right there.
I know
Like,
exactly what you
unless you're
mean.
talking about it out loud, you can't hear it, right?
Exactly. It's sometimes you need to extrovert it. So when you talk about it and you hear yourself, like, what am I doing? And
What am
um,
I doing?
within software engineering, which is also part of my background, you used to put a small little rubber duck on the developers' tables. And the reason is that when they had a bug or an issue, they tell it to the rubber duck what the problem was. And by
Oh.
telling it to them, they will, you didn't get a reply, but you for sure realized what you were actually trying to understand or explain. And then you basically self coached. I'm not saying for all the listeners, go get rubber ducks, but it do help to extrovert it.
I think that's pretty cool because we think we're doing that by just thinking about it, but really what we're doing is we're stewing and brewing in our own juices. And you're right, we have to extrovert. We have to externally hear our own voice because then we can blow holes in it a little
You
different.
mentioned your own proprietary framework here, and that you have that you build from all your own experiences, and you have sort of a roadmap where you help others today. Can you give us a couple of the steps that you go through, and for the listeners, help the listeners here understand, like, what are the common pitfalls on that roadmap that they should be aware
Mhm.
of, where they should go, huh, I heard about this. I'll try to either solve it myself or I'll reach out to Theresa and maybe she can share what she is doing.
Yeah, yeah, there was, some really big aha moments that we gathered along the path because, of course, when we're saying yes to everything, we're diving right into doing the deliverables. So let's say that's a website, right? And the client says, "Oh, well, we know who we are, we know what we offer, we've got all the content that you need to make up that website, all I need is the website." Okay, great. So you just kind of dive in and you build the website. What we realize though is that many organizations, well, of course, organizations, just like people, they evolve and change over time. So many times clients would think that they were very clear on who they were, on what they offered, and what their differentiators were in the marketplace. But in fact, they had a lot of identity questions. And we learned in our process that if we slowed down at the front end in the plan the work phase, that we could ask some really tough questions about, yeah, but really what makes you different? How are we going to message to that? What is your secret sauce? What is the system that you really bring to the marketplace? How do you solve those challenges or problems for people? Marketing and sales is really about being able to confidently project how you're helping your customers, clients, or patients, right, with their challenge or problem. And many clients thought they had it all figured out, but they really don't.
They don't.
They really need some help. They don't. And so we stopped taking their word that they had it figured out, and we baked into the process a deep dive that really allowed them to get super clear on their identity because then they can really attract the best people to the team. That's a marketing challenge, right? I hear a lot of people say, "Oh, I don't need marketing. I just need people to help me deliver the service." Well, that's a
I
marketing
love that.
challenge.
I love that you call that out. So many people don't understand that attracting the right talent and recruiting them and getting them on board. It's absolutely a marketing and sales challenge. And for some reason, people
100%.
think like that's just what HR do. I'm like, no, it doesn't work that way. I'm sorry.
No, 100%. And so to your point about like the pipeline or the funnel, I think that's probably the one thing that we maybe did well from the beginning is that we had a digital doorstep that clearly communicated who we were and what we stood for.
Mhm.
And so it made it easier for our people, both external client potentials and internal team members, to align themselves with us as a brand. And I have never had a problem finding talent ever.
Oh,
And I'm one of the only business owners that I know. I go into a peer networking group of 500 CEOs, and everybody complains about recruiting and hiring and onboarding. And honestly, I've just been very lucky, and I think part of it is that I've slowed down to speed up. I've spent some time thinking about who am I really? Who are we really at the Diamond Group, and who do we really wanna work with? Who is a good fit for us internally and externally? Because you can't be all things to all people.
yeah. And you definitely having to just say yes to everyone, like you said before, you get a lesson from that as well. You can't do everything for everyone.
Oh, yeah.
And customers sometimes also have to be a culture fit for what you are doing and what you're delivering. But I want to take it back to that clients. I said it, you said it. Clients don't always know what they want. They can't always say what is their unique value proposition. And I want to normalize that because I meet two type of founders. Either the ones who said, I know exactly what it is, and I'm like, great, tell me. And when they tell me, I'm like, okay, I can chat GPT that answer. Or I meet people who said, I think it's this, but I'm not really sure. What I have learned, and I would love to hear your thoughts on this, is that it's the important part is just asking the question. Just be curious and
Yes.
assume you haven't perfected it yet and just iterate on it. But how do you sort of break through those two barriers? One is I know exactly, and the other one is, well, I don't know it. Like, how do you remove the stigma or the shame of not knowing it?
Yeah, I haven't run into too much of stigma around it. I think maybe because we baked that part into our system, into our process. So it's like, okay, well, step 3 is this brand workshop. We're going to spend 3 hours diving deep into this. And this is just part of the process. And so people will say, well, I have that all figured out. I don't need to spend very much time in that. And then they come out the end of our process and they're like, oh, yeah, I guess I thought I had it figured out, but I really didn't. And that really helped me. And we hear that over and over and over. So I think just playing the law of averages, it's like we do this with every single person that comes in the door. Whether you think you have it figured out or you have never spent a second thinking about it, we're going to do it. So it's just we're creating a common ground, a common playing field, and so there is no shame or stigma attached to it because it's just like, well, this is just what we do. We do it with everyone, whether they say they know it or whether they say they don't know it, it doesn't really matter. We're gonna treat everybody the same because, maybe you do have it all figured out, or maybe you just think you do.
I love that.
Ye
And you should every time you iterate on it, even if you do know it, you will absolutely see something different every time. And it's the interaction that matters and the iteration. But let's shift here to a little bit back to you and where you're at today. So where how do you balance that hunger for growth versus the stability of a business that's been around for so many years? And I mean, you are a long-standing brand, and how do you balance that? Just walk me through, like, where does the
Yeah,
hunger and the
well,
passion come from?
I think that is a day by day, hour by hour equation, Andreas, because, my husband is the tactical, he's the steady Freddy guy, and I'm the pushing the growing edge girl. And so, I'm from Detroit. I've got the Detroit drive. He's the California cool. And so we're playing that balancing game all the time. I'm saying, well, let's go do this. Let's push over here. And he's like, yeah, how about if we just sit over here and be profitable for a few years? What if we don't do that right away? So, I don't know that there's any magic to that. I think the magic for us is in our partnership, in that we have such distinct lanes. We have totally different personalities. We have totally different perspectives, and we tend to balance and blend each other. So I think there's real power in linking arms with somebody who has a totally different perspective with you, so that maybe you can just figure out, okay, well, in our life at this time, I mean, right now, we're kind of in that stage where we've heavily reinvested for the last few years, and we need it to be a little bit easier for a little while. Like, we need to refill the coffers emotionally, physically, financially, and just be okay being okay, if you will, but that's recognizing that there's a season for everything.
Grow and plateau. That's the name of the game.
Yeah, grow and plateau. But I can say I don't plateau for very long that well.
No,
Like,
I
I get
know. And did you ever read the book Rocket Fuel by Gina Wickman?
yes,
You're
I
talking
love it.
exactly like a visionary, and your husband is absolutely the integrator or the operations person. And you're like, he want to plateau and you want to grow. But it's the combination of the two of you is what creates the rocket fuel.
Yeah, 100%, and we are an EOS agency, and that is exactly how we've designated lanes. And sometimes that does create productive tension, right? Sometimes I wanna go and he wants to stay, and we have to kinda navigate that. But that's the beauty of the journey, right? It's part of the entrepreneurial journey is that you're gonna navigate these ebbs and these flows and these ups and these downs together and through these seasons, and we've had a chance to go through many of those cycles together, so far so good. So
Before we go into sort of a quick lightning round where I will ask you a couple of quick questions, quick answers, I have one question that I think you will give a great answer to. And that is, what's the biggest sales and marketing mistake you see professional service firms making, and how do you help them fix it? Just to sum up all the things we talked about.
oh, 100% they make everything about them. And they make it about, well, you get this, well, you get this, well, we can do this. This is our expertise. This is our experience. And they don't spend enough time discovering who it is they're talking to on the other side of the table. Sales is about serving. And how can you serve the other person if you don't understand them? I see websites like this, right? It's all about the firm, not about the problem they solve for. So I don't want to hear about features. I want to hear about benefits. So the number one problem I see is that people verbally vomit all about their company on the person they're talking to, and they don't slow down to ask the questions.
Yeah.
Like, well, where are you today? Where do you want to go? In 36 months, if you had a magic wand, where would you be? How can you serve that person if you don't know where they want to go?
I love it. And that's a lot of listeners here. They should, if you don't know how to answer those questions on behalf of your clients and customers, you're missing the point. You're talking too much and you're listening too little.
Yeah, get rid of this verbal vomit. Yeah, 100%.
I wanted to take that conversation down to a whole AI discussion, but I'm
Yeah.
gonna stop it there, and I'm gonna go into that's for another day. I'm gonna do a quick lightning round. So what this means is I'll ask you a couple of quick questions. First thing that comes to your mind, unfiltered. It just is what it is, and you can correct yourself if you don't like your first answer. Um, One moment that taught you how to lead under extreme pressure.
Launching. Um, we redid the airport parking product for that airport that we got that business for. And launches just create their own pressure within the pressure, right? Like you're already under a microscope and then launching something and you're like down to the minute. I think in those moments you have to lead by example and there's no replacement for integrity.
I
So
love that.
if you have to get up on the cherry picker truck in the middle of the night at 12:01 and put the tape on the thing and the sign and the thing and to get to launch on time, then you have to personally take radical responsibility for the action and you just have to do it. That's what you have to do.
I love that answer.
And I love seeing leaders rise to the challenge and just show up and do the work.
Biggest myth about scaling a service business?
I think the biggest myth is that it's gonna be always forward progress. Like, it's just steady, organic growth and progress. I think growing a company and scaling is a lot more like raising your children. And for people who have, been along the journey for a child growing up, they make 3 steps forward and then they regress for a week or 2, and they kinda go back to the old comfort zone, and then they reapproach, and then they go forward again. I think growing a company is exactly like that. Scaling is exactly like that. Like, you progress, and then you ebb a little bit, and then you progress, and then you ebb a little bit, and so you have to have the mental resiliency, the mental framework to just know that that's normal so that you don't get super frustrated.
What's your favorite leadership quote or principle you live by?
I have so many. Clarity is king is really, like, a mantra for me, and I think people are not specific enough. They are walking around as a wandering generality saying, "I want more, I want different," and they just are not a meaningful specific. They have got to get more clear to be committed and to have confidence in those goals. So, as a leader, if I'm not clear and I'm leading a team to the charge, how do I expect people to respond with clear, committed action if I'm not specific and clear enough? So, my number one leadership mantra is clarity is king,
I love it.
because that forces me to go, are you specific? Are you clear enough? Do you know where you're going?
As a person who comes from a very direct, non-emotional, expressive country in the Scandinavians, I love clarity, and sometimes feelings gets too much in the way of the
Yeah.
conversation. But clarity, I agree, is king. Um, what's the next best book after your own, of course, that you would recommend other leaders to read?
Um,
And this is a place where you can insert your own book as number one as well.
oh, yeah. Well, my books, my 2 I have 2 books. They both were a bit accidental. I think the first book was about rebounding and coming back from failures and setbacks because I had so many obstacles and resistance in my path, and I really had to dig deep and get resilient. My second book, UpLevel, was really about managing my own energy and building in sprints, to your point, because I don't do well with 24/7, 365. I've got to have some starts and stops so that I can put in immersive, focused effort and then ride the wave. So I'm a big proponent of creating a wave of momentum in your business and really learning how to manage your own energy to do that. Um, but I love The Millionaire Mind is a book that I love. I've read it several times. There's 2 sections of that book. You can read both sides of it different. One side of it really talks about, very powerfully about leveraging other people's time, talent, treasure, and really learning about the power of leverage. And I think for an entrepreneur who wants to get out of that S quadrant and go to the B, you have to learn about leverage, right? And the power of that. The other side of that book talks about enlightened wealth principles. And so, really, the power of giving back, of having a big picture attached. And at the Diamond Group, I mean, I'm a big proponent of contribution, being contributory on a local, a national, and an international level. And I think those enlightened wealth principles have really helped me as a person and as an entrepreneur.
I love it. For the listeners here, who should be reaching out to you, and what's the main problem that you're solving for them? And yeah, walk me through, like, any listeners here who feel like, wow, this conversation was really valuable, but maybe we forgot to say something. Who should be reaching out to you, and what's the main offer that you provide to them?
Yeah, great question. So, statistically speaking, only 6% of small businesses in America, now I don't know about Europe, European countries, but a very small percentage of small businesses ever get to 7 figures and beyond. And the growing edge there that they hit their head on is leadership and sales and marketing,
Mhm.
right? Sales drives the bus. So what we do at the Diamond Group is we help founders create a sustainable sales and marketing system that doesn't rely on them. It's all well and good to get referrals. That's the way companies grow for years and years, but it's not reliable. It's not consistent. It's not recreatable. So we help companies build a sustainable sales and marketing system so that they really can grow and scale the distance, whatever distance that owner wants to go. Otherwise, the founder is going to get burnt out or bored out, right? And that happens all the time.
Yeah, sadly, too many times.
Yeah. So what I would love to do is service-based businesses. If you're in a small business, construction and home services, specialty healthcare, dental, professional services, financial, legal. If your business is still relying on you for sales chutzpah, then we need to be having a conversation because we can help you get clarity around exactly what is missing in your systems so that you can grow the distance and not only get over that 7-figure mark, but go beyond to multiple 7 figures and 8 figures.
Thank you so much, Theresa, for being on the show.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. You ask such good questions, Andreas.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, everyone else who was listening to Adapt or Die. If today's conversation sparked some great idea in your mind, or you're more curious to learn more about the show and listen to the other episodes, you can find us on Apple Podcasts. Just search for Adapt or Die. Also, please leave a 5-star review on the show if you like it. It helps the show spread to more entrepreneurs, and maybe you're helping them as well through some of their struggles. You can also learn more about me at leadersadapt.com. And please remember, in leadership, we adapt and thrive, or we don't survive. Until next time.